Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks again for joining us. This time for Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather on this 12th day of February 2017. Yesterday, February 11th, we had a storm system rolling fairly rapidly northward there, right up toward Yakutat, and a lot of heavy snow coming in with that there into the northern southeast coast. Warmer conditions, though, making for rain on down to the south. Back to the west, we had this area of snow from Friday, shifting eastward in the Copper River Basin, clearing out south central Alaska, clearing quite cold temperatures up over the interior. And another upper level system here dropping southward, bringing some clouds and areas of light snow into the northwest interior. And not too bad wind-wise, but a lot of cool to cold air out over the Bering Sea. Low clouds, areas of light snow, Pribilof Islands, that extending down to the peninsula there, and just some scattered snow showers across the Aleutians with light winds. Well, today, not a lot of change out there, about the same pattern with not much going on. Another push of cold air coming southward with the upper level trough in that area. Otherwise, yesterday's storm well into Canada. The next one down here moving on up, but it's taking a track farther to the west than the previous one did. So we've got a good shot of warm air streaming northward, warm front right in through here, snow up to the North Gulf Coast, coming westward across the Kenai Peninsula. Had some moderate snow today from Seldovia, southern Kenai Peninsula there, on down into Kodiak Island, gradually spreading westward, looked like back to the Alaska or the Aleutian Range here, and then also increasing across the North Gulf Coast, obviously, and into Prince William Sound, and starting to increase again, wind and rain over the southeast coast. Anyway, clear and cold over the interior, light winds, temperatures well below zero, especially this morning, dropping into the lower minus 50s over the Yukon Flats. And then cold air again, another surge coming south across St. Lawrence Island. Just some light snow there, though, with not bad on the winds either, but up into the Bering Strait. And light snow, temperatures in the teens for the Pribilofs. And that extends on down to the Alaska Peninsula and eastern Aleutians. But again, not too bad on the conditions out there. Generally light winds, especially for this time of the year, and just some scattered snow showers. On the chart today, we had the rain and wind this morning diminishing this afternoon, becoming more showery here for the Panhandle, and then all that moisture coming northward here with the warm front still back down southern Gulf of Alaska, still apparently east to Kodiak Island as of 3 p.m. this afternoon. But the snow right through here, again, kind of on the heavy side there, again from the southern Kenai Peninsula on down to Kodiak Island. And again, that all moving northward here with even starting to show up now in the Susitna Valley areas or over toward the eastern slopes of the Alaska Range. Back to the west, cold temperatures, dry conditions with clearing, looks like all the way up to the Brooks Range. Not too bad on the Arctic coast as well. Areas of VFR today with just a few passing clouds up there, quite light winds here, lack of a gradient, weak high pressure center. They're just near Old Crow, and then some light moisture here through the Bering Strait, extending from about Cape Lisburne across Point Hope, down catching the Bering Strait areas to St. Lawrence Island. And actually, some of that looks like the light flurry stuff extending down toward St. Matthew Island as well, but staying for the most part to the west or northwest of Nunivak Island, and still clouds, light snow, flurries, Pribilof Islands, a little more enhanced here on the Alaska Peninsula on the Bering Sea side of both the Alaska Peninsula and over the eastern Aleutians, but light winds, scattered snow showers, temperatures generally around freezing or a little below there across the entire Aleutian chain. And for tonight, winds coming up significantly. Gale and storm force winds moving up to the North Gulf Coast as that front advances northward. Much milder conditions moving in, so snow changing to rain, especially along the North Gulf Coast, like from Yakutat to Cordova and across the southern Kenai Peninsula. Quite a marked rise in the temperatures going on there, although Valdez in the next 24 hours or so, or 12 to 18 hours, could pick up 12 to 15 inches of snow or more. Could be a little heavier toward Thompson Pass. Winter weather advisory out for the western Susitna Valley, west of the Parks Highway, for 4 to 8 inches of snow over the next 24 hours. And then also snow moving northward to the Alaska Range. So with the winds here increasing and the snow, Broad Pass could be pretty dicey. Look for snow and blowing snow. It could reduce visibilities through the pass there, say from just north of the Igloo all the way up to and probably a little past Cantwell. Probably looking at pretty poor visibilities later tonight and into tomorrow with those gusty winds and the snowfall. Again, snow periods of western Cook Inlet. To a lesser extent back across the Kuskokwim Valley, more of an overrunning type precipitation pattern there, and that'll extend down into Bristol Bay. But northeast winds on the increase here across all of southwest Alaska, not so much for St. Lawrence Island or from the Seward Peninsula across the north. North of the mountains, just look for increasing mid and high level clouds there coming across the Tanana Valley, eventually working into the upper Yukon Valley, which should act to keep the overnight lows tonight a little milder than they were last night. Again, we're Fort Yukon and Chalk-Yitzhak down to 51 below zero, while Beaver was at minus 50. You'll probably stay warmer than that tonight, but clear and cold north slope. Pretty good conditions, VFR, the winds increasing on down along the southwest coast. Snow showers, light snow continue for the Pribilofs. Cold air, upper level trough coming southward here with this system coming northward on its eastern flank. So that's going to keep the cold air, another surge coming down. So lots of snow showers. Look for an increase in the winds here for the eastern Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula. But conditions wind-wise and precipitation-wise staying light and scattered showery out over the western Aleutians. And then for tomorrow, again, that colder air, the next surge coming out over the open water, so we kind of regenerate an area of just solid clouds and pretty continuous light snow that'll reach from the Alaska Peninsula, Unalaska, Dutch Harbor, Nikolsky, back up across the Pribilofs into the northwest Bering Sea, drier air behind it, offshore flow, look for clearing skies. But breezy conditions here for the southwest coast of Nunivak Island. Basically dry, just some clouds all the way up into Kotzebue Sound, except those downsloping areas there along the northwest coast. Probably looking at mostly clear skies for tomorrow. No change out here over the Aleutians, light winds, scattered snow showers. This low center, little iffy on the position here, but it'll be gradually shifting northward a little bit. The front definitely will be by Kodiak Island, and increasing gradient here over the Gulf of Alaska, so gales, force winds along the coast and possibly storm force winds in the offshore waters. And again, this whole mess and warm air condition moving northward, so we're into mixed precipitation here for the definitely Prince William Sound, Kenai Peninsula. And again, cutting off here on the lee side of the mountains like the Talkeetnas, Benton-Hansing once again west of the Parks Highway where the winter weather advisory is out. And again, a good shot of snow for Valdez on up to Thompson Pass. But from there northward, not really looking at much at all. Could see a little bit of light snow developing here, or you probably will on the southern slopes of the Alaska Range there on the north side of the Copper River Basin. But into the Tanana Valley, it's going to be VFR definitely for tomorrow with just some mid and high level clouds. Temperatures coming up even there. Maybe a few flurries of this trough through here. Gusty north and northeast winds from, well, actually Kotzebue Sound now through the strait on down to the south. From the Pribilofs down south, less wind. And now looking at the Tuesday forecast, that low center comes northward. Looks like at this point in time, maybe up Cook Inlet or the west side of the Kenai Peninsula. Anyway, warm conditions coming with it. So mixed precipitation, Cook Inlet on up into the Matanuska-Susitna Valley. Rain from Girdwood to maybe, well, Girdwood, Portage, Could be mixed in Girdwood, but Portage, I think, definitely will be rain, as well as Whittier, all the way eastward, but amounts becoming lighter here along with the winds. And this front now stalled out along or just off the southeast coast there. And this was from this morning's model run, the late morning one. Actually shows this weak trough here, actually a much snappier low center, so that's why there are gale force winds along the southeast coast for Tuesday. And wet conditions continue. Back to the west, pretty good low pressure area here parked over the Alaska Peninsula. Cold air coming down and southward, snow and blowing snow from the southwest coast across the Pribilofs on down to the eastern Aleutians. Excuse me. And then this front and the gradient shifting up to the Brooks Range. Look for northeast winds, maybe as high as 40 miles an hour through the passes. That will result in snow and blowing snow for much of the central eastern Brooks Range. Better out toward the Arctic coast. Mostly clear skies, but quite windy. Low wind chills here from the northwest valleys through the Bering Strait, Seward Peninsula, but dry conditions even to St. Lawrence Island. Lots of snow showers scattered around with lighter winds over the western Bering on down to the Aleutians. And temperatures this afternoon, 30s and 40s for the Panhandle there, 43 at Klawock, 42 Sitka, while Juneau 37 degrees, 30 degrees at Cordova, and Yakutat up to 34. Whittier 28, 24 there at Seward, and 10 degrees in Kenai, one above at Palmer, while Northway had -5, and then much colder over toward Fairbanks at 18 below, Tanana -23. Fort Yukon edging above the -30 below zero mark there with 29 below. -21 at Bettles, about the same in Anatuvik, and temperatures running 15 to 25 below for the Arctic coast, milder to the west, below zero for the northwest areas. And for McGrath, 15 below, Bethel -11, Nome at -2, same thing there at Unalakleet. St. Michael 0, 5 degrees there at Savunga, -2 at Tin City, 7 at Macoriac, and moving on down, 17 at St. Paul. St. George a little bit warmer there, right at 20. Mid-30s here for the central Aleutians. Shemya was missing on the temperature. And Unalaska 25. In the teens for the Alaska Peninsula. And then from about Port Heiden northward, below zero conditions there. Quite a gradient across the Aleutian Range this afternoon too. Again, the mid-30s there for Kodiak Island. And for lows tonight, you can see well below zero west and north of the Alaska Range. But even these temperatures, Tanana Valley will be trending toward warming as the cloud cover starts to stream in, a little more moisture in the air mass there. Teens southward to the North Gulf Coast, up along the coast, 20s warming into the lower 30s toward morning, and 30s, lower 40s here for the Panhandle. Out west, temperatures in the upper 20s. And then for highs tomorrow, lower 30s for those central western Aleutians, still in the teens for the Pribilofs, a shade above zero there around St. Lawrence Island, and mid-30s, definitely warmer conditions spreading into south central Alaska, Susitna Valley, and the Matanuska Valley as well, with Copper River Basin, Gulkana warming into the lower 30s with 40s, mid-40s for the southeast coast. And you can see good rise in the temperatures here, even up over the Yukon Flats there, starting to approach zero tomorrow afternoon, but still in the -20s on the eastern Arctic coast. And for flying weather tonight, IFR advancing northward here right up to just about the Alaska Range on the south side there, and back to the east side of the Alaska Range, on down across Shelikof Strait in the Aleutian Range there, and of course the southeast coast, IFR the entire night. And for tomorrow, improving a little bit there with the IFR shifting more to the north, but marginal conditions on down to Dixon Entrance. Big bunch of IFR here, Copper River Basin, North Gulf Coast, except for the lee side of the mountains here, northern Cook Inlet, say from Kenai on up to the east or the west side of the Talkeetnas. More IFR from the Kilbrook Mountains, Bristol Bay, northern Bering Strait, northeastward along the western Arctic coast, and a line of marginal stuff through the central interior. And for passes, Anatuvik, VFR, Adigan also in the VFR flying weather there. Lake Clark and Merrill, lows conditions, eastern approaches likely will be IFR for both passes. Same pattern for Rainy as well, IFR. East side, higher conditions, probably VFR out toward the valley. And for windy, southern approach, IFR, VFR in the Tanana Valley side, and for Isabel, same pattern, south to north flow, making for the IFR on Mentasta as well on the southern entrance of both those passes. Tanita, marginal VFR, I think you'll escape the IFR tomorrow, hopefully. And for Portage, you won't. You'll definitely be IFR, as will Chilkoot and White. Freezing levels, kind of meandering here across the Aleutians, but south of the Fox Islands, right up to near Kodiak, lifting up to the coast. This is for late tonight. By tomorrow afternoon, that surface line will be farther to the north, as well as the 2,000 to 4,000 foot levels here. And so good amount of warming coming in the Gulf of Alaska, the Panhandle, that all eventually spreading up into the southeast interior. And for the icing threats, again, here along the southwest coast, more significant here for the North Gulf Coast, back down across the Panhandle, all streaming northward right up to the Alaska Range tomorrow. North of there, nothing at all. Wind flow, jet stream, strong flow across the Pacific, fairly far to the south, takes a turn to the north here, around 150 west or so at about 140 knots. Warm air moisture coming on with it there, and then kind of veers off to the northeast. And 9,000 foot winds, strong here along the southeast coast, 50 to 70 knots. That extends back to the west there, and then starts dropping off to about 35 toward Kodiak Island. Quite windy over portions of the interior as well. Northerlies 30 to 35, northern Bering Sea, really light out over the western Aleutians. 9,000 foot wind flow chart, southeasterlies 25 to 30, strongest here along and off the southeast coast with up to 60 knots. Northwesterlies 25 to 30 out to the west, and light variable winds from the Brooks Range on north. And turbulence-wise could be severe here, northern Panhandle back toward Yakutat, in toward the Wrangell Mountains. Look for a lot of moderate chop, southern Alaska, all the way down to the Alaska Peninsula, Kotzebue Sound, all the way down to Nunivak Island. And after the break, I'll be back to look at the marine forecasts.
We have a big solar flare coming in, so we're out here on an aurora hunt. It's a CME, it's a dynamite, coronal mass ejection. It's when the sun, it kicks off energy and these explosions that are larger than the Earth, explosion type things coming off of sunspots. And if that energy is pointing straight at the Earth, it gets caught up in our magnetic field, and that energy, electrons, come down our magnetic field, collide with oxygen up there about 50 or a couple hundred miles high, and that's what generates the northern lights. My job as the photographer and the aurora hunter is to be in position, you know, location, location, location. And I like to think I'm composing. Mother Nature, it's a bit of a teamwork thing, you know, she's got to put on the show, but I have to be in the right position and of course with the right tools and the know-how. I've stopped keeping track of how much time I spend out here in terms of hours. It's more in terms of weeks or months, or at this point years now. You know, it was always in me. Even when I was a kid growing up in the lower 48, I would spend nights sleeping on our trampoline, just staring at the stars. I'm in 4th grade and I'm going, wow, look at those stars. And I'd see how many nights in a row I could sleep on the trampoline. And I think my record was 23 nights in a row. So I was doing kind of strange things for an Iowa country boy. I can remember specifically the very first time I saw the Northern Lights. It was 1989, the peak of the solar cycle, and I was going to graduate school in Laramie, Wyoming. And all of a sudden we had heard the Northern Lights were out. It's like, what are those? I'd never really seen them before. And my goodness gracious, we were on top of a mountain in the Laramie Range and they were turning blood red. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And the very first picture I took, that was 1990. Now, an old film camera, Pentax K1000 on a plastic Kmart tripod. Took 2 shots on slide film and got them back. And I thought, oh my gosh, this beautiful green thing swirling about. And from that moment, I was hooked. when I realized that you could preserve the auroras on film, I just experimented a ton. I'd had a heaping stack of slides, the no good ones. The experiments gone wrong, you know, too dark, fuzzy, out of focus, too light. I had this huge garbage can full of excess slide film, and that was just the learning curve. Well, when I go out here, it's all about getting the shot. And my wife and I, we've called it the hero shot. But the hero shot is the one where you just come home and you go, look at this. And everyone goes, wow, and you feel like a hero. It's a wonderful feeling, you know. It's good for the ego, of course. It's good for the business. But if you kind of strip that away, it's good for what's inside you, because that's really the hero moment in nature. And Mother Nature's putting on this show that is just mind-blowing. It's unbelievable. When I first resigned from my day job, that was in 1996, and decided I wanted to become a full-time aurora hunter, my goal from that moment and to this day still is to get one hero shot a year. I figured, and I'm talking the kind that somebody wants to buy from you and hang on their wall, where the auroras are extremely bright, very active, turning colors, where you can't believe your eyes. If you're gonna preserve a little sample of that with a photograph, well, it's what we call the hero shot. Wow, what a feeling. I mean, you're elevated, levitating, you're lifted up. Your spirits are so high that I love that feeling. And I think I get that so much from seeing cool things in nature that I will go way out of my way to find that. And I can, you know, the next day, well, I'll be just laying there thinking about it and thinking how lucky I was, or how fortunate. Of course, I just, you know, spent 2 weeks sitting there staring at the sky and not seeing anything. So you got to remember that, you know, luck is kind of a relative term, but I still just feel incredibly lucky to be even in a position to where I could have been there, taken a photograph of it, and just mainly experienced it. Well, that feeling could last for days.
Welcome back. Winds here for the southeast coast. On the coast, little uncertainty in the speed. These could be gale force tomorrow. The only thing that's probably going to be dead on the mark are the directions here, south and southeast, both along the coast and the inside waters. These two could be maybe something a little more than 20 knots, so definitely want to check the latest marine forecasts that come out. And that same thing's going to go on for Tuesday as well. That I forgot to change the label on Sunday, though, so those were for tomorrow. And we've got full gales definitely now for Tuesday here, 35, mostly 40 knots, same direction, south-southeast. Gales in the forecast now for Clarence Strait for Tuesday, 35 knots, only 20 knots there for Lynn Canal. And Prince William Sound, east winds 20 knots, southeast 30, 20 to 30 for the North Gulf Coast, northeast 20 to 30 Cook Inlet. Gales, Kamishak Bay, small craft advisories for Kodiak. And then Tuesday, southerlies 20 to 25, most areas, but we still got this gale force wind here going for the North Gulf Coast on into Prince William Sound, southeast 35, 7-foot seas. Bristol Bay, north 20, northwest 25 to 30 across the Alaska Peninsula on up to Sitkinak. Tuesday, reverse direction, east 15, Bristol Bay, pick it up to 25 there down along the peninsula. Small craft advisory, southeasterlies, 30 knots, Cape Sarachev up to Sitkinak. And for the eastern Aleutians, north-northwest, 25 to 30 knots, 15 to 20 there for the central Aleutians, and even lighter out to the west. Tuesday, 15 to 20 knot easterlies here. Shimia over to maybe a little bit west of Amchitka, otherwise northwest 25 for the central Aleutians. Northwesterly gales coming up for the Fox Islands, heavy freezing spray. Bering Sea, southwest coast, north 30 knots for tomorrow. Small craft or brisk wind advisories. St. Lawrence Islands, small crafts here for the northern Bering Sea and even the Pribilofs, all out of the north. And then stronger winds in store for Tuesday. We've got full gales from St. Matthew Island in across the St. Lawrence Island into the northern Bering Sea. Gales north of Nunivak Island, call it 25 knots from the north or northeast. They're coming out of Kuskokwim Bay. Northerlies at 35 for the Pribilofs. Eastern Beaufort Sea coastline tomorrow, east-northeast 10 to 15. More variable toward the central coast and kind of a general westerly direction on the west side, northwest 20 from Wales to Cape Thompson. Then on Tuesday, we've got brisk wind advisories here from Cape Thompson on down to the Bering Strait. Again, lighter winds north-northwest there for the Arctic coast all the way to demarcation point. And for tonight again, big increase in the winds here along with warmer air surging northward. A lot of snow coming up for Valdez here over the next 18 to 24 hours. Winter weather advisory out for the Susitna Valley for 48 inches of snow, and snow and blowing snow pretty likely for Broad Pass once the snow gets up there. And then snow back here to the west, rain, increasing winds or windy conditions coming back into the Panhandle. And for tomorrow, that continues there. Again, the tracks of this front and the positions and the timing really up in the air, a lot of uncertainty. And then for Tuesday, that low shifts inland. Another one back here to the west will make for snow and blowing snow, colder temperatures across eastern Aleutians up to the Pribilofs to the southwest coast. Also the Bering or the Brooks Range there, snow and blowing snow with reduced visibility, especially through the passes, and then rain and wind for the Panhandle as well. Otherwise, dry conditions with low wind chills, northeast winds, maybe gusting to 40 miles an hour from the northwest coast on down to St. Lawrence Island. Let's look at the weather. Thanks.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.